Hi, Mark Frederic, Le Charcuterie Anglais, giving myself a plug straight away, okay? Sausage book. What we're going to talk about is casing, so it's appropriate. I just mentioned my book, and I promised in an earlier video to talk about sausage casings that have got a connection to medicine, and that is most casings, particularly pork casings. They're often sold from the abattoirs and places. They're often sold straight to medicinal companies, and there's one in particular in Vietnam who buy pork casings, and they make a drug called heparin from the casings, and it's all the scum, shall I call it scum? So it's like the inside of the casing. So it's a bit like human, human veins and things. The what's the word? Get that build up of stuff inside the veins and stuff. Well, it's a bit like with pigs and casings. They get a build up of what's trafficked through the casings from day one. So it's all that scum, because I can't think of a better word right now, build up. When they're cleaning the sausage casings, turning them inside out and scraping all that off, that contains whatever scientific ingredients is needed, and is turned into a drug called heparin. Now, heparin, for those who don't know what it is, it's a very quick, fast-acting drug, usually administered by injection, possibly by drip, but certainly by injection, as an anticoagulant. So for somebody who needs a blood clot breaking down pretty quickly, heparin's the drug to do that. Or maybe it doesn't break it down. Maybe it just stops from that particular clot getting any bigger, any more further build up. And it's a very, very important drug and life-saving. And then from there on, I don't know whether it's that the drug that the abattoirs sell the scum to the drug companies, or they sell the casings to the drug company and they do the cleaning and pass it back. I wouldn't have thought so, but anyway, that's what happens, and it's really really interesting. It's something I learned when I was in hospital myself several years ago. I was being cared for by a Muslim male nurse in this hospital, and heparin came up in the subject because I'm an anticoagulant user myself, and there were some young doctors around, so we're all in this discussion, and this Muslim nurse was doing his stuff, altering my drip and God knows what else, playing around with my drip, and then as we discussed heparin, I turned to him and I said, yeah, a great drug, but unfortunately he can't use it. And they said, why not? I said, well, he's Muslim, because it's coming from pork, and straight away this Muslim nurse carried on working, but he was paying attention. His ears were well switched on, and he just replied back, very, very professional guy. He just turned around and he said, no, he said, we Muslims can take heparin. It's not an issue. It doesn't go against our faith, Islamic faith. So I was a bit puzzled about that, and I said, I thought you guys can't eat pork. He said, you're right, we can't eat pork, or we cannot consume pork, He said it's forbidden in our faith, but we can take heparin made from swine, pigs. And so I said, explain, So he said, well, it's the act of eating, consuming. That's forbidden when it comes to pig products. Other pig products that are not consumed, as in eating, are allowed. So if the Muslims get ill through, through blood clots and things, I hope they don't. I hope nobody does. But but life is such. There's people every day who suffer from it, and they're okay to take it. So that kind of cleared my head a little bit, and I thought, wow, I'm learning something, And of course, for those of you who may not know, pig fat is used in lipstick, and I thought, well, how far do we go with this one? Can Muslim ladies use lipstick made with pig fat, because it's there on the lips, and I'm sure some will get taken in. Does that act as consuming? But anyway, I didn't pursue that argument. But anyway, it got me going. So anyway, I've learned something, and so there we are. I've cleared that bit of information. I promised to mention it from a previous video, so there it is. Heparin, made from the scum, because I can't think of a better word, from inside the pig casings when they're cleaned out. All right, so that's good. So there's a lot of good comes from processing our pigs. It's not just pigs; it's other animals too. Actually, they can make the drug from. Look, I've mentioned the book. For those of you who are entering a hobby of sausage making, or just new to this altogether, and you're thinking of buying casings, I would always stress to you, please use natural casings wherever possible, and because you're helping the trade, as it were, and it's the right thing to do. I'm not against artificial casings. They've got some good uses, especially in salami making and things. And but yeah, try and choose natural casings wherever possible. I'm a founder of a meat award scheme, including a charcuterie class, and we look for people who use natural casings, and it wouldn't help yourself like to be offering something in artificial casings unless it was really special, of course. So there's another reason. I'm sure there's other judges of other award schemes that looking at it perhaps the same way. Hopefully they do anyway. So always try and choose natural casings, and be careful of what you're buying. Lamb casings are more expensive, and you get less meat in, so you need to use more to cover the same amount of weight in meat. So they're also very delicate. You can bust and break them very easily, but they give you a nice bite. Terrific, high quality skin casing, and pig skins tend to be the most popular. But you have to be careful when you're using the larger diameter casings. And here is a good example. All right, andouille. Have you heard of the andouille sausage, French sausage? This is the one sausage when I lived and worked in France, when I had my own farm and butchery business, charcuterie business in France. That was the one French sausage that helped my business over anything. And I never made a single andouille. How did it help my business? Because all the expats, they're there in France like for the first time, or they knew there, and they ran the French markets, and they tried the takeaway sausage, which invariably was andouille. And God, if you've ever had an andouille, they are made in the, how can I be polite about this? They are made from the casings nearest to the arse of the pig, and the sausage tastes just like as if it was full of shit. Sorry, I can't say it any other way. Forgive my language, but it does. It just tastes like you've just bitten a turd or something. It's terrible. It's awful. There are people who like it. The French certainly like it. But that was that one sausage that turned expats away from French-style sausage immediately, and never. And they would search out British-style sausages, And of course, you know, I could make British style sausages. I was there in France, and I had customers travelling. Oh crikey! I think the most extreme was like an 8-hour return trip. So it was 4 hours to get to us and 4 hours to return. They used to make a bit of a day trip around my area when they came, and they used to come about once every 3 months and stock up. They came from Toulouse, and it was just like amazing that they came that far. I lived in up in the Charente on the Limousin border, so it was quite a distance. So yeah, so be careful when you're buying your casings, you know, as to the diameter. The greater the diameter, the more danger you're into buying the thick end of the casing, which is nearest the back end of the pig. All right, so be careful. And yeah, so what else can I tell you about, you know, casings, you know, storing them? I've got a few packets here at home, and when I make, but I prefer mine dry salted, and you can buy them on a plastic sheath as well now, which make it easy putting on the machine and everything, which are cool. They're a bit more money, but I tell you, it's usually worth it. Can be a pain in the backside unraveling some of these in salt if you're not careful. And you can also get casings in a brine. Now, the ones here like in this bag that are dry salted, you can keep those indefinitely, pretty much. But the ones you buy in a brine, they've got a shelf life, you know, like about 6 months, something like that, and they do go off. I can tell you, I've had experience of that. And so try and avoid buying them in a brine. Always try and use dry salted. And another thing to avoid is freezing them. That question is asked time after time after time. Can you freeze sausage skins, pig casings? The answer is yes, you can, but you're going to damage them, all right? Or you're at a high risk of damaging the skins. So what happens when you freeze? In a conventional home freezer, what happens when you put something in? Okay, icicles form. So when you look on your windows in the winter and you see like icicles forming on your window and they come into big star shapes, they might be tiny, but do you know what I mean? You know, it's like a star appearing, you know. So those icicles, albeit in microscopic size, is what's happening to your sausage skins in the freezer, in conventional freezing, okay? Conventional freezing, not speed freezing. Speed freezing, quick freezing, all that stuff, that's different, and that freezes them without that process. So as these icicles form, what you've got to imagine under a microscope looking at these icicles forming, these starbursts, like starbursts, they are they're creating microscopic samurai swords, you know, and they cut into your skins, you see, and they make tiny little prick holes in your skin. Or they can do. You know, not guaranteed to happen, but it can do. So when you take out your skins from freezing, defrost to use for filling sausages, you can end up with so many bursts in your skin, and you're scratching, wondering why. Well, that's why, you bloody pillock. You know, don't freeze your sausage casings. Sorry to call you a pillock, but it's just, you know, got to get the message across, haven't we? You know, and humour's a big weapon in my department. So yeah, don't freeze them. Articles form and they cut into them. Just imagine, you know, millions of samurai swords, you know, cutting away at your casings. So it's not good advice. And so what else can I tell you about casings? I had something at the tip of my tongue there I wanted to tell you, but that's escaped me now. But maybe it'll come back to me in a second. But yeah, so we got salting, brining, yeah, freezing. Covered those points. Okay. I'm sure there's something else. You know, it may come out in a second. But they're the skins, particularly when they've been dry salted, they need to be soaked in water. So if you're going to do sausage making tomorrow, take out your skins and soak them in water today. They'll be at the most flexible the next day. All right, you can get away with it for as little as about an hour, but the skins haven't really opened up to their potential diameter. And if you want to make the most out of that diameter, then they're better off being soaked overnight, so they really open up to the diameter they ought to be. And I find with pig casings, the classiest sausage is about 28 mil. I like that size, but it's a personal preference. But in a lot of cases, you know, we use 30 to 32, especially 32s, occasionally 34s, but definitely 32s for a lot of sausages, including the Cumberland. That definitely needs to be in that size. So yeah, so it's and you can put any mix into any size, and you can you know, put any mix into a lamb casing and vice versa into a pork casing. And when you're making your sausages, I'm getting off track a bit here, but when you're making your sausages, you might be using breakfast plain pork seasoning for your pork sausages. There's nothing stopping you using that same recipe for your beef and your lamb, and you'd be amazed how they all turn out different, and game. So, but yeah, sticking to the casings. I think it's the Turks who make a sausage out of sausage skins. So they keep wrapping it around itself until it forms like a large diameter sausage, and cook that on the grill. And it's usually marinated first before they kind of tied into this you know, this bundle. And I can't think of the name of this sausage right now, but you know, so that's another use for the pork casings. But anyway, I came to this video just purely and simply to get the medicinal point across. So I hope you enjoyed a little bit of information there. If you want to know a lot more, look, it's not a lot of money. But, get that book. It explains things in a lot more detail. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Buy me a coffee if you won't mind, please. I'll put the information in the link below. Toodaloo.